Good afternoon and welcome to NHD AZ's Exhibit Basics. My name is Dr. Rex and I'm here to share some insights into this year's NHD's 50th anniversary theme of Turning Points in History and to give you some exhibit basics to keep in mind as you develop your project for the region and hopefully state and national contexts. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make my thing. Control, yes. This is what happens when Janie leaves the room. She was helping me. Hang on, Kathy, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to cut that part too. Oh, okay, let me try to go back and see what I did. Okay, one. All right, take 2,432. Hello and welcome to NHD AZ's Exhibit Basics. My name is Dr. Rex and I'm here to share with you some insight on NHD's 50th anniversary theme, Turning Points in History, along with giving you some exhibit basics and some samples to keep in mind as you develop your project to come and compete at our regional, state, and hopefully our national. What is this year's annual theme? Well, the theme is Turning Points in History, and you as the student are allowed to pick a topic that relates to the theme. It is vital that you choose something that will help develop your historical argument. The theme's really broad, and it's done by design because it really wants to allow you, the student, to find something you're passionate about, dig yourself into some research, and truly drill down and to create a historical argument, a thesis that you can turn into a project. So when we say turning point, what comes to mind with a turning point? Turning points can be a time and space. It can be a moment of truth. It can be something that happens that forces somebody, something, some country to do something a little different. There have been turning points in medicine, in environmental issues, in women's rights. There are critical moments of truth that you will have to pick something, and you'll have to really narrow it to a manageable chunk to research. Don't forget, pick something you're passionate about because you are going to be very involved in your project. All along, as you research, make sure that you can match what your theme is to a turning point. Why is this historically significant? The more specific you are, the better. Don't be afraid to ask questions because you can get into a topic and there is so much out there, it really can get a tad bit overwhelming. NHD projects are different from reports. We've all written reports. Our teacher has given us assignment like, tell us how Native Americans, indigenous tribes built their homes in different parts of the world. Well, you chose a tribe, you researched the tribe, and then you told in a report what you found out. You told what you learned. NHD asks you to look at history a little bit different. They want you to take what you learn, mix in things that you thought during your learning process, and then it asks you to come up with something new. You're going to create an exhibit that's going to help lead the judge or the person that's viewing your exhibit into an event in history. You want to be able to explain something that happened because someone was alive, someone did some type of work. You want to be able to have an exhibit that will give evidence to research that maybe will help reconcile contradictory accounts about historical moments. You might find two different historical documents that give different information about the same event, and that's going to help you draw a conclusion. Where you find your evidence is going to help you lead and develop a historical argument for your exhibit. What we have here are some pretty nice samples. And what I did was we had a person that works here at Arizona Historical Society. They went and judged at the national level. And I asked that person, please take pictures of some of the gold standard, the really, really solid exhibits, because I wanted to be able to give you actual things that were done last year that, even though it doesn't tie to the theme, it gives you ideas and it gives you a thought process as you start to develop your thesis and your argument. I want just to make sure that you understand that your NHD project is simply more than just a report. What is a historical exhibit, and why should you choose it? Well, historical exhibits offer a variety of materials to help support your argument. When you create your exhibit, you're going to be developing a timeline, maps, graphs, charts, photos, paintings, maybe even some small artifacts. You're going to dig deep into those primary sources like quotes, letters, newspaper articles to help develop your argument. You may also want to include some type of interactive element, such as listening to music or having some kind of problem solving or a short video that will help draw your viewer into your exhibit. Now, why should you choose exhibits for your project? Well, if you like freedom of expression, if you like creating things, if you like engaging things visually, it's not just writing a paper. It's going to give a representation of your argument in a different way. It's going to, just like in an exhibit of a museum, it's going to take a topic and it's going to paint a picture and help a person that either has absolutely no background on the topic or someone who even has extensive background on your topic. It's going to draw them in. It's going to make them want to know more. It's going to make them want to hear your argument because it is so well done and it uses primary sources and it's fact-based. Think about a museum that curators that create exhibits, their actual jobs, and they go around and they create exhibits to help educate people. Some people might think that building an exhibit is easier than writing a paper or memorizing lines for a performance or developing a documentary or a website. Maybe, but when you do your exhibit, you still have to relate your theme. You still have to research. You still have to have clear, convincing thesis statement to draw the judges in. You still have to read. You still have to research. You still have to evaluate and find evidence. But exhibits are going to allow you to think outside of the box. It's going to allow you to use a variety of primary sources to help tell your story. Many of you have already jumped into your project schedule. Many of you have already got your outline of your process paper. You've started researching. You have a thesis. You're filling out your bibliography, as you go along. Now that January is coming, make sure you do the rule book. Make sure you have a very clear understanding of what National History Day expects for exhibits. There are very specific things that can and cannot be present in your exhibit. And you might have the best thesis in the world and the best argument and the best way of telling this story. But if you keep getting dinged for having things that don't belong or cannot be there, that's going to be very frustrating for you. And it will also be very sad for the judges, because if you have a strong project, but it just wasn't put together within the expectations of the rules, that's really gonna take away from your experience. Don't forget, in your bibliography, hopefully you are keeping a list of all your sources and you're developing your bibliography. You may use different formats. You can use MLA, but start now. Don't wait to the end to scramble to put it together. Most of the contests begin in February and March. Our state contest is in April. So you're going to want to make sure that these next couple months all of your paperwork and your thought process has now come together, and now you're getting ready to create your actual exhibit. You want to make your case. Don't forget, when you're putting together your exhibit, you are going to want to have that thesis statement clearly defined, as well as your reasoning and your evidence clearly presented to support your argument. Reasoning is the way that you make an argument in your project. It's kind of the why you believe your thesis is valid. Evidence, evidence, evidence. If you're going to say something, you got to be prepared to prove it. There are two groups for this project. Some people like the individual exhibit. There are pros and cons for both an individual exhibit and team exhibit. If you're someone that likes to control every aspect, you have a good eye for design, you definitely can work without needing to have other people in a cooperative manner, this might be the way you want to do your exhibit as an individual. But if you don't have the skills, all the skills that are necessary to put a full exhibit together, you might want to consider the team exhibit. Team exhibit is a lot of heads put together that has various strengths and expertise within the group. If you do a team exhibit, remember that communication is essential. Timelining, setting due dates, making sure everyone is very clear on what their part or their role is, dividing the roles up equally, and communicate, communicate, communicate. Otherwise, you will be frustrated. This is an example of one of the NHD exhibits, and it's an example of a lazy Susan. It's one that actually turns. And as you look at that, I just wanted to have you think about, as you put your project together, make sure that you understand your timeline. Your timeline is all the things that have to get done before your regional event. Your teacher is probably going to help you, but when you go into Z-Fairs and you register for the regional event that you belong in, if you're in the north, you're going to do north. If you're in the western part of the state, you'll do Yuma. The south, you'll do Tucson. Remember, Phoenix is divided by the I-17. If you're on the east side, you do the east regional sign up for Z-Fairs. And if you're on the west side, you'll do the west sign up for Z-Fairs. But remember, you and your teacher really need to work together and set dates, so you know that certain things need to be done for your project. Remember that deciding on your theme was about 5% of your time, conducting all the research with the secondary sources and kind of getting to the point where you drill down was about 15% of your time. Doing your primary research was 20% of your time. All along, hopefully you're keeping an annotated bibliography. That'll take up about 15% of your time. And now the rubber hits the road and you're going to build that exhibit. Your building of your exhibit takes 20% of your time. And then you have to step back and you have to look at it. You have to have multiple perspectives look at it. And you have to be open and understanding that you're going to probably do some editing, revising, and rewriting before the final submission for your regional event. And that's going to take about 25% of your time. This is an example that was used at Nationals that talks about the use of height, photos, quotes, attaching physical bars to draw the eye to certain segments. When you decide what type of project you're going to do, and you've aligned it to your talents and interests, and you've made sure that the theme is aligned to turning points in history, now's the time to think about what's the best way I can tell my story, my project, in a visual format. And this is one of the samples that was at the Nationals. Here's another sample. As a key component for you and your project is making sure that you focus on your primary sources. Primary sources can be artifacts, it can be autobiographies. Primary sources include documents, witness interviews, historic sites, consensus records, artwork. Take good notes and remember your primary sources need to connect to your theme. It's really easy to get overwhelmed by all of the information that you found, and there's some cool information, but if it doesn't fit in what you're really truly trying to tell in your story, it was just an interesting thing and it might not make it onto your exhibit. Annotated bibliography. My suggestion to you is make a list of everything you used, everything that you did for your exhibit or topic. It makes life easier for yourself and you're not scrambling and looking for things later. Start a draft of it, keep adding to it. You can always take off things that you don't use. When you build your exhibit, try to keep a few things in mind. You're going to gather all your information from your primary and secondary sources. You're going to create a timeline of important events. And if you look at this, this is a good example that it incorporates the timeline in it. You want to make sure that you focus on key people or key places. When you write your thesis statement, spell out exactly what you want to say. When you consider your materials to use in your exhibit, ask yourself, how does this enhance my thesis? Does it relate to the thesis? If it does not, find something else to use. You only get one crack at your judges, so you definitely want to stay focused on your thesis. We're going to talk a little bit about design. When you design your exhibit, you're going to focus on color, lines, shapes, texture, and space. Make sure you connect the content to the design of your exhibit. Think about colors, shapes, symbols, what would represent well with your topic. Your exhibit doesn't have to be expensive, you guys, but it needs to be effective. The visual impact of color using contrast like black and white, dark accents in the background with light, or light accents in the background with dark. Avoid using too many colors because it could become distracting to your viewer. Maybe reach out to your art teacher. Talk to them about color and combinations, or head on down to Home Depot and Lowe's. In the paint section, they have tons of color swatches. Look at what is visually pleasing together. Look at what draws your eye and maybe consider using those colors in your project. All right, lines. When you use lines, you're trying to direct the person that is looking at your exhibit to focus on the main arguments. Don't scatter them out all hodgepodge. You want to draw their eye and their lines so they actually are following a pattern that is going to help them start with your statement and move around looking at all of your evidence that builds your relationship to your theme. Shapes. Remember, the exhibit itself is a shape. You can use background shapes, you can go large, you can go small, but just like too many colors, don't throw in too many shapes because that might distract your viewer as well. Textures. Are you going to use natural fabrics? Are you going to use materials? Is there something that will help align to your thesis that represents that time or represents that space or represents that place or even represents that person? Your use of space as you attach something to your exhibit, if it sticks out and gives kind of a three-dimensional twist, that can be a way of drawing someone's eye to it. It gives you that 3D effect. Using your space effectively will add interest, excitement, and contrast to your exhibit. The big debate. Do I use the 3-panel, which is similar to what science fairs use, or do I use the 3-dimensional? I think there's pros and cons to both. The 3-panel is popular. It's the least complicated to build. It helps you get things put in organized areas that are easy to find. It has a centerpiece that you're going to want to definitely attach your main argument or your main focus, you use that center panel piece to present the main argument, and then use the side panel to provide supporting evidence for your argument. Remember, you're only limited to 500 student composed words, so let quotes, documents, artifacts, drawings, photos demonstrate a direct alignment to your thesis. Artifacts and other materials may be placed on the table between the side panels, but remember, these objects definitely want to support your thesis, not detract from your thesis. 3D exhibits, like the one on the whiskey barrel, they're more complicated. They can be very visually effective, though, if the design ties to the topic. Keep in mind, you should be careful where you place the title and the main arguments, because this three-dimensional exhibit can be looked at from different angles. So if the judge is standing on the side, where do you want them to draw their eye first? Construct your exhibit so people can easily view all sides. And don't forget that labels are a good organizational tool to help guide the viewer from the opening argument through the sequence of events to the conclusion. Planning and building your piece. You're going to be writing labels. And I found 7 deadly sins of labels, and I'm going to share them with you. But just first, make sure you connect the content of your design in your exhibit. Think about your colors and your shape and your symbols. What kind of visual impact with color, with light? Too many dark accents, too many light accents. Avoid using too many colors. Again, maybe once you get your first primary setup of this, have multiple people come in and look at the piece and give you feedback. Before you grab that hammer and glue gun, make a sketch and put everything in that sketch. What graphs, what photos, what charts, what maps. Then step back and ask other people to come in and look at it. It's kind of like your rough draft. And ask them what draws your eye first and why. Don't tell them what they should be looking for. Ask them what they are seeing. And from that feedback, it may mean you need to readjust something on your exhibit. Now, when you write your labels should tell a story. Your exhibit text needs to be grammatically correct, using good sentence structure. Make wise word choice, and definitely you need to clean up and edit any spelling errors. Now back to the 7 deadly sins of labels. 1, labels not related to the thesis topic. They're a distraction. If they have nothing to do with what you're trying to argue, they don't need to be there. 2, labels that put too much emphasis on instruction. They're presenting information rather than offering a thought-provoking idea. Remember, this isn't a report. This is an NHD project. 3, the label that don't address any prior knowledge or interest or misconceptions. If you choose a topic that's very popular, people are going to come in, let's be honest, with a bias. So you may need to think about common biases that exist within your theme or thesis, and you need to label and make sure people are very clear that you either disprove those thoughts or you clarify those thoughts. Number 4, labels with no organization makes them hard to follow. Number 5, labels that are hard to read due to the typeface, the design, the font, or the color. Number 6, labels written with vocabulary that the reader or viewer cannot understand. Don't get too wordy. If there's another word that means the same thing and it's a word that most people can understand, you might want to consider using it. 7, avoid labels that are too long and ramble with no connection to your topic. Quotes and engaging the viewer. Many students choose to display historical quotes from primary and secondary sources in their exhibit. Quotes can be an effective way to use historical evidence. They can add excitement, drama, a sense of immediacy to the event that you're trying to talk about. Unfortunately, some students will use historical quotes from secondary sources as a way to try to get around the contest word limit. Using too many quotes will make your exhibit look crowded. So think about that very carefully before you overuse quotes. Looking at this photo, what is engaging you? Elements. In this one, there's photos. I want to know who these people are, what they did, and how they're connected to this argument. Engaging your viewers, you can add elements within your exhibit. You can use media devices like a recorder, a projector, a computer, video monitor, but you have to make sure they must not run more than 3 minutes. The devices have to fit inside the size limit that is recommended, and any narrative that is written will count towards your 500-word student composed words. So be careful. Again, the rule book will be your friend at this point. Does your exhibit have hands-on activities included? Is there a little flip door that I have to lift as the judge to read something or to make me think? That's an example of a hands-on where the viewer has to interact or interface with your exhibit. That creates a memory for me as a judge. Oh yeah, the flip door one, I liked that. All right. Z-Fairs, don't forget to register for your regional contest through Z-Fairs. Remember that all lockout dates are clearly in the Z-Fairs and they will be listed on the Z-Fair pages by regions. You will be presenting to judges on the day of the regional contest. There is no letting them see your actual exhibit. You will submit documentation and what you need to through Z-Fairs, but the exhibit is the day of event, so it's considered live. When you register for Z-Fairs, there will be directions. If you have questions about what you need to send in, please know that you can always reach out to us. As you're developing your exhibit, make sure that you definitely read and understand the rules. I can't say that too many times. Okay. Whew, it's contest day. Now, you're coming. You want to dress professional, business professional, or if your dress is a representation or part of the presentation and it's a costume for the actual interview, you need to be prepared. Don't forget 5 copies of the written materials to hand to the judges. It has a title page, the process paper, and the annotated bibliography. Be prepared to maybe have a kit before you come, and don't pack this the night before. This is like a week before thing. Make a kit or a box that has anything that you possibly can think of that you might need to fix your exhibit that may or may not have come off during traveling to your regional event. Could have got ripped, could have got snapped. Be thinking about everything you possibly might need in case something gets messed up on your exhibit before you set it up in the judges area for display. When you come in, you'll be invited in, wait for the signal that the judges are ready to start, introduce yourself, give the project title, and then stop. Take a deep breath, get a positive mindset. You've been preparing for this for months. You're ready. During the interview, answer the questions as clearly and concisely as you can. Relax and know that you have done your work and you have done your work well. All right. Thank you for listening and good luck. If you need some helpful hints or support, you can reach out to our NHD AZ website, our YouTube. Our Library of Congress is a fabulous resource, and if you need something, you can email us and we'll set up office hours so we can talk you through something. We're not here to do the work for you, but we definitely will be happy to listen to you and try to look at your project from different angles and give you all the support and questions that we can ask that will make you think in a different way. So thank you so much for coming, and I believe I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to end at this time and have a great day.